The topic I chose was the civil rights movement impacted more than Black people's lives. Take a moment. Now look to your left, and now look to your right. Who do you see? A friend? An acquaintance? A rival? A role model? Now look at me, your speaker. My name is Khristian Yeah, that's my full name. I'm just like you. The only thing extraordinary about me are my trials and my tribulations. The origins of the civil rights movement began in 1865, when slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment, and went on through the years until the Civil Rights Act of 1968. The civil rights movement's goal was to end racial segregation and discrimination against African Americans. People put their blood, sweat, and tears to end racial discrimination and segregation. It is true, African Americans during the duration of the civil rights movement had an oppressive time to get where we stand as individuals today. But it also affected others. The civil rights movement was created to establish basic human rights, not just in the US, but in the whole entire world. While the civil rights movement was taking place, the Immigration Act of 1965 allowed people of all races to come into America. But with the circumstances that the United States was going through, this made immigration laws stricter. Along with African Americans, those that migrated over here had to endure the pressure of discrimination. Most immigrants migrated to the United States to find a better life. Never did they dream they'd be looked down upon. The civil rights movement gave colored immigrants opportunity as segregation began to loosen and started integrating into schools and public places. Frederick Thafir al-Din, an Islamic immigrant involved in the struggle for civil rights, was a college student who withstood the hostility and racism from their racial oppressors, along with other African Americans in their colonies. Along with African Americans, they received the same discrimination we have received just because of their appearance. Immigration went with the flow of the civil rights movement, and immigrants started gaining as much as African Americans had gained during the interracial integration. The South was torn between what they wanted. Some were elated of the idea of having an interracial community. The majority of others weren't as stoked. In fact, the social and political change is what they feared the most. Therefore, they retaliated in hostility. At the time, the mindset of white Southerners was that being white made you superior. If you were a king, and your kingdom had one day had no more need for a monarchy, some would loathe the idea of being lowered than becoming equal to those once under them. The fact of the matter was, being slaves as long as African Americans were, created a stereotype inside the minds of white Southerners. We were considered illiterate savages to the majority of white Southerners. With this in mind, they saw us inferior. The hostile organization known as the KKK, or the Ku Klux Klan, solely created based off racism and nativism, frankly didn't believe in racial equality. The organization's goal was to postpone racial equality, or just eradicate it altogether. Luckily, they ultimately failed, and the world is coming closer and closer to equality with every step we take. The civil rights movement gradually shifted the views of the South and eventually integrated into not just the South, but the U.S. way of life. We received the chance to advance on through the struggles that were introduced to those in the U.S. When the civil rights movement ended, segregation became a thing of the past. We no longer pondered on the worries mode. We no longer worried about if we can't do something because of our status. The civil rights movement changed all of that and made almost anything possible with enough effort. Achieving our goals became a reality, not just some pipe dream that seemed close yet far on the horizon, but right there in the arm's reach, ready to be grasped by the next generation. The Civil Rights Movement wanted nothing more than equality. To be able to have the same opportunity to do what they wanted just as much as everyone else. The impact the Civil Rights Movement brought changed the nation and the people's traditional way of thinking. This created a paradox in the eyes of the people. Recently, Selma, a movie telling about the Great March from Selma to Montgomery, was an example of the determination of the nation. The accomplishments of the Civil Rights Movement brought upon openings for non-whites and whites alike. For example, before Barack Obama became our president, many were against him, and by achieving his goal, he proved the people of the U.S. that even with his skin color, was able to succeed. Those that are young like me should take the examples and use them and take slow strides to their goals and prove that we can make a difference. In the Holy Bible, Galatians chapter 3, verse 28 stated, "There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. There is no male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus."